But again, a formula, 3 times EBITDA, 1 times book value, 1 times revenue, 0.7 times revenue, all of those are easy to understand, just like the fixed price, right? They are easy to implement, easy to negotiate, right? And they're inexpensive, just like the fixed price model. The disadvantage is that the multiples change. These multiples change. They're not a static event. They change because of what the industry is doing, what the economy is doing, and perhaps what this individual company is doing.
So I understand that what you're saying is, so far as the formula and a multiple of whatever. So we're using income capitalization, which is going to change, but we still have this as a backdrop so far as determining a multiple. So
when I use a formula multiple in a phantom stock agreement or in a buy-sell agreement, it's only for ease of entrance and exit. So I want to have a formula that allows the employees who are going to get stock options or phantom stock to come in at a price that's relatively low, perhaps, compared to the marketplace. We might use a low multiple, but if they leave before the business is sold, they're also going to get that same multiple, because it would be unfair to be having to adjust that multiple every year, and also inconsistent in terms of what the IRS looks at. So it's really for ease of entrance and exit of employees in a situation where they may have an equity ownership or a minority owner where there may be equity ownership. But it's clearly not an accurate way of measuring, because multiples do change, and multiples are a function of income capitalization. 5 times earnings is usually based on projected earnings. So if you're showing earnings like this, the hockey stick, is it realistic to really show a hockey stick in today's economy based on your business? And the answer is, doubt it. I have one client who is a marketing genius. This guy is developing a system that will replace Dun & Bradstreet. It is already doing that. It's disrupting the entire marketplace for information flow, and he's done it in a way that is really inexpensive. And Dun & Bradstreet's really upset. They want to buy him, but he doesn't want to sell to them, because he's basically selling his ability to provide business intelligence to the marketplace in a way that he generates great profits, and everybody's saving money because it's costing a fraction of what Dun & Bradstreet is doing. That's a hockey stick to me. That's where I can show projections that their revenue growth is 50% to 100% a year, and it's going to continue like that for several years. And then when he hits, when it starts to slow down to 25% and 20 and 10% revenue growth, which is still very significant, that's when he'll sell, or right before then, and he'll sell for $1 billion. But those opportunities are so few and far between, right? So yes, sir?
Do you recommend the formulas at all in buy-sells for particular industries?
I'm not a real fan of using formulas unless there's a reason to do that. And the reason to do it is not really industry specific. It might be the fact that the business owner's trying to provide an incentive, a long-term incentive, to keep the employees engaged in the business. So it's really equity comp or synthetic equity. And I'll use formulas there because they're easy to implement, and I have a lot of people coming and going who are getting these equity grants. And in that instance, it's permitted under the IRS regulations, but it's so simple to implement, rather than, I have other clients who say, no, I'd rather do it based on some type of valuation that's being performed by an appraiser, by the McLean Group or Valuation Services Inc. or whoever. They come in every year and they're going to do an appraisal, and it's going to cost me $7,500 to $15,000 a year to do that. And my clients are reluctant to spend that unless they hit a certain level.
I was going to say, based upon what I'm seeing there, the fixed price formula appraisal would seem to match with your graph of age of the business and how well it's actually doing.
Age of the business, no, but how well it's doing, yes.
Well, to his point, though, in your graph, existence, survival, none of my comments. If I said, I want you to get an appraisal that costs you $20,000, you get off the drugs, see you later. So
Right.
what I wind up doing is I do, well, the income capitalization, depends what kind of cut they are. And I say, if you fund this with life insurance, the IRS will look at this amount of life insurance as an earmark for now.
And that's usually what we do at the startup phase,
Right.
at the existence phase is, well, look, how much money do you think this is worth today? I don't know. Well, how much would you be willing to sell your interest for if you're the 50% owner? $2 million. That's the amount of insurance we'll get on you. Well, we'll get the insurance on the other 50% owner too, and we'll do a cross-purchase arrangement or a limited liability company to own the insurance or something like that.
So that's an interesting point. So I have a client of mine, and the insurance company actually gave him, or was willing to give him $5 million of life insurance okay, for his company. And my personal opinion is there's no chance in hell the company's actually worth that.
Right.
So what happens in that situation if an event actually occurs with respect to the IRS?
With respect to the IRS or death?
Well, death and the IRS. Okay, because I mean the money basically is meant to go to one way by Zell.
Okay.
It's like it's meant to go to the individual to basically buy out the company at $5 million. I'm still unsure how the insurance company was actually willing to give that amount of money anyway.
I mean, the insurance company doesn't really care because they are just issuing insurance based on the life expectancy of the individual and on the individual's net worth and other factors that they have to take into consideration, how many other policies are outstanding, all the different factors that insurance companies take into consideration when they're issuing insurance. So they don't really care about the value of the company. What the owner cares about is that $5 million goes to his family. And that the other owner cares is that he gets 100% of the ownership of the company. And as long as they're paying the premiums, which are non-deductible, everybody's okay with that. Oftentimes you'll take a portion of that $5 million and earmark it for key man insurance so that you can go out and hire a replacement person to handle the functions that the individual was performing. So if that person was responsible for all the administrative and operations of the company, administrative functions, then you'd want to go out and hire a COO, and you may have to pay him $250,000 or $300,000 a year to come in to handle that side of the business. Well, we need enough insurance to cover that for some period of time, right? But that's usually, and insurance, you can carve up a $5 million policy using a buy-sell agreement any way you want, and having the owners agree to that. But the appraisal concept really is what I would refer to as the valuation process. And there are different factors that you have to consider when you are considering injecting an appraisal process in valuing your business. And how many appraisers do you use? What is the standard of value? What is the level of value? Well, the standard of value is really referring to two main types of measurements, either fair market value or fair value. Fair market value is the most commonly used measure of value of a business or an asset or property. And it's, as Revenue Ruling 59-60 says, and you'll read that in every appraiser's opinion that you've ever seen, it is the amount or the value that a willing buyer will pay a willing seller for that asset with neither being under any compulsion to buy or sell the asset. What the hell does that mean? Okay, well that's a good starting place, but there are a lot of components to fair market value. And as any appraiser will tell you, there are different ways of measuring it. So income capitalization, particularly with respect to real estate investment, is a primary method for valuing the asset. Discounted cash flow, which is not exactly the same as income capitalization, because discounted cash flow has a terminal value and income capitalization doesn't necessarily have that, is another way. So you're basically projecting your cash into the future, discounting it back to the present. What's your discount rate? The discount rate is a function of the cost of equity and the cost of debt, which are factors that appraisers really study very closely. They look at the industry, they look at the size of the company, they look at the type of business that you're in, and they try to draw analogies to other businesses that they've appraised or valued, and based on comparable sales, they might be able to come up with a discount factor that reflects this business. Well, the higher the discount factor, the lower the value of the business. The lower the discount factor, the higher the value of the business. So discounted cash flow is another major component. And then if you're dealing with unique assets like patents or technology that is disruptive, using a discounted cash flow model is not an accurate way of valuing the business, because most of those businesses show zero cash flow or negative cash flow for the first 2 or 3 years while the business is under development. But there may be something that's very disruptive there that a buyer, a strategic buyer in particular, would be interested in looking at.